The night had fallen quiet over the vast Texas plains, the wind whispering through the dry grass as the last embers of the campfire glowed faintly. Luke Carter, a rugged rancher with sunburned skin and a heart that had seen both loss and mercy, was mending a broken fence when he heard a faint groan from the nearby woods. He froze, his hand instinctively going to the revolver at his belt. Coyotes, maybe, or worse, bandits, but that sound, it wasn't animal. It was human. Slowly, Luke approached the source of the noise. Under a clump of mesquite trees lay a young native man, his chest torn open by a rifle bullet, his face pale and slick with sweat. The young warrior looked up, startled, weakly trying to raise a knife. "Easy there, son," Luke said softly, kneeling down. "You're hurt bad. Let me help you." The man's breathing was shallow. Blood had soaked through his buckskin shirt. Luke didn't think twice. He tore a strip from his own shirt, pressed it to the wound, and lifted the man onto his horse. The ride back to the ranch was slow and tense. Luke kept glancing around, half expecting arrows to come flying out of the darkness. He knew the dangers of meddling in tribal matters, but his conscience wouldn't let him leave a dying man to the coyotes. Inside the ranch house, Luke's old dog barked softly as he laid the young warrior on the bed. He cleaned the wound, poured whiskey over it, and stitched it with trembling hands. The man drifted in and out of consciousness, muttering in his own language. By dawn, the bleeding had stopped. The man's name, Luke soon learned, was Dakota. "Why'd they shoot you?" Luke asked, pouring a cup of water. Dakota hesitated, then whispered, "White traitors, took from my people. I followed. They shot me." Luke clenched his jaw. He'd heard stories like that before, men who thought the frontier was free for the taking. "You'll rest here," he said. "You're safe." For the first time, Dakota's expression softened. "Safe? With white man?" he asked doubtfully. Luke gave a faint grin. "Guess we'll both have to trust each other." The next morning, Luke woke to the sound of horses. Not one or two, dozens. He stepped outside, squinting against the rising sun, and his heart nearly stopped. Across the ridge, a long line of riders was descending toward the ranch, painted faces, feathered lances, and gleaming tomahawks. At least 200 warriors. Luke's first thought was to grab his rifle. His second was to look back inside at Dakota, still weak and bandaged. "Well," he muttered, "guess your folks found you." Within minutes, the ranch was surrounded. The warriors formed a wide circle, their horses snorting, their eyes filled with suspicion. At their head rode a tall, imposing man wearing a hawk feather headdress. His face bore the calm authority of a chief. Luke stepped out onto the porch, unarmed, his hands raised. "He's inside," he said. "He's alive." The chief dismounted, his eyes sharp. "You speak true." Luke nodded. "He was shot. I patched him up." The chief gave a signal, and two warriors went inside. A few tense moments later, they reappeared, carrying Dakota, alive, but weak. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The chief turned to Luke. "You saved my son." Luke blinked. Your son." The chief nodded gravely. "Dakota is my blood. We searched for him 3 suns. I thought he was gone." The air was thick with silence. Luke's heart pounded as dozens of warriors stared him down. "Didn't do it for reward," he said quietly. "Just couldn't let him die out there." The chief's expression didn't change, but he gave a short command. Instantly, the warriors lowered their weapons. Dakota weakly raised his head. "Father," he whispered, "this man saved me." The chief approached Luke, studying him carefully. Finally, he spoke. "Few white men show mercy to our kind. You risked death to save my son." "Why?" Luke shrugged. "Because right's right. Doesn't matter the color of a man's skin." The chief's stern face softened just a little. He reached into a leather pouch and drew out an eagle feather bound in red thread. "Among my people," he said, "a feather is honor. You will carry it." He placed it in Luke's hand. Luke hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Thank you." The chief looked around, then raised his voice. "No harm will come to this man or his land. From this day, his ranch is under my protection." A chorus of approval rippled through the warriors. Luke stood there, stunned. "Well, that's something I didn't expect before breakfast," he said with a dry laugh. Dakota smiled faintly. "You are brave, rancher. My people will not forget."